Welcome to Grand Est, the northeastern region of France, and home to the cities of Strasbourg, Nancy, and Reims. I'm going to show you some of my favorite highlights in these three cities, starting in Strasbourg, followed by Nancy, the city of Art Nouveau and glassmakers, and wrapping up in Grand Est with a visit to Reims in the Champagne region. Before I left France, I also had to spend a little time in Paris, so I wandered the streets. I'm going to show you a few of my favorite places, as well as the most opulent, grandiose coffee shop that you've likely ever seen. My trip through France started in Lyon, and I've got a whole video that you can watch on that part of the trip. And then I took a train to Strasbourg, and it's part of the Alsace region, and also a city that has been part of both Germany and France a few times over. Today you can see the influence of both countries on the city, from the architecture and the food to the language and the culture. The city is beautiful, it's charming, but the central square around the Strasbourg Cathedral is truly remarkable, and I'll show you inside a little later on. On a walking tour of the city, I learned about Albert Switzer, the great German and Alsatian thinker who studied medicine at the University of Strasbourg, and beyond music and theology, he established a hospital in Central Africa. Along the canals of Strasbourg, you'll find the very charming area of La Petite France, and it's an idyllic place to explore. This area was once home to tradesmen and tanners and millers, but today it's home to restaurants and stores, and it's a perfect place for a stroll. It's like a walk back in time. Summer will of course be beautiful in this area, but if you're looking for other times to visit, spring and fall are also wonderful. I visited in mid-October and it's still very comfortable then. You can get away with just a light sweater or a coat, and there's still flowers and leaves on the trees. It's beautiful. There's lots to do in the city, but one popular activity is to take a boat tour along the canals, and I'm going to show you the tour that I took a little bit later on. But first, I had to go and have lunch at a classic Alsatian restaurant. Chez Yvonne is the perfect wingstub. It's recognized with a Michelin Bib Gourmand, and it's serving creative dishes alongside the best of the region, including their braised pork knuckle, which is supposed to be the best thing on the menu. I enjoyed everything I tried, but the traditional cuisine is really the thing to come for. The gastronomic travelers out there are going to love it. And I had a chance to try a few of their appetizers, and then the delectable filet with Riesling and sauerkraut and steamed potatoes. It was awesome. So let's take a look inside the Strasbourg Cathedral. The cathedral started construction in 1176, and it wasn't finished until 1439. It was supposed to have two towers, but the second was never completed, never even started. This Gothic architectural gem was incredible, and it has beautiful stained glass windows, and it's impressively huge. One of the biggest highlights, though, has to be the astronomical clock. It was built in 1843 to replace another clock, and the clock is an astonishing sight with dials for the solar and lunar positions, including eclipses, and it features figures of Christ and the apostles every solar noon. Visiting the cathedral is free, but make sure to plan your visit around the cathedral's operating hours, as they do close around midday and Sunday mornings. Boat tours of Strasbourg are an hour, and they take you around the city for around 16 euros, with an audio tour available in numerous languages, and that talks about the city's heritage and buildings and history. You can also book shorter tours depending on what you want to see on your trip. During peak season, you should plan to book your tour in advance to avoid disappointment, as the boats are usually full and you can't necessarily just get on the next one. I love the unique perspective, especially at sunset, and the audio guide was very good. For my night in Strasbourg, I stayed at the modern and chic Maison Rouge. It's an autograph collection hotel with so much charm and character. It's wonderfully unique, it's central for walking to everything, and they offer a great buffet breakfast that you can also book. I love that I had a little bit of a view. The room was very cozy. They have a great bar, Le 1387, and great spaces throughout. It is really wonderful, and the staff were fantastic. For dinner, I had a first in my entire life. I had a meal at a Michelin-starred restaurant. After a walk through the city center and past the cathedral, I arrived at 1741 for a very special 9-course meal. In their private dining room, a sommelier served local wines and introduced the dishes, and the dishes were truly incredible, thoughtful, and perfectly paired, and the service was exceptional. To date, I have to say it's the best service that I've ever had at any restaurant. Every dish was meticulously made for true gastronomic experience that combined incredible flavors with beautiful rich colors and platings. It was so unique, and after the appetizers there was bread service with their own local recipe for the bread, and then 4 beautiful small plates followed by the most amazing desserts. I still dream about this meal, and at the very least I'd suggest booking ahead to reserve the 5-course lunch they offer, but there are a few options and it really is worth every moment. It is an unforgettable experience at this restaurant.
That one is a cake which is
After an unforgettable meal like that, walking back through the dark streets was wonderful, and the cathedral was lit up and it felt like the perfect end to the day in the city. The next morning, I got on a streetcar to head to the train station for my day in the beautiful city of Nancy. After dropping my bags at the hotel, the first stop was Place Stanislas, and nothing really prepared me for this incredible space. The iconic gates, the large public space, there's gardens and greenery and fountains, and the most astonishing 18th century era buildings. It is easily one of the most beautiful squares and public spaces in Europe, and you really will want to spend a long time here. I love everything about it. Around the square you'll find a cafe, there's a hotel that's set to reopen later this year, there's a museum, and the Dome Crystal Showroom. These pieces capture the real beauty and art of this art form. It's amazing to see what was accomplished over the years, with lots of examples inside that you'll love to check out. After that, I had a chance to head to the home of iconic furniture designer Louis Majorelle at Villa Majorelle. It's a museum that preserves the art of everything he created as well as other people. It's like nothing you have likely ever seen before inside of someone's home. Architect Henri Sauvage designed the house, and it was built in 1901, and today it's considered one of the first and most influential examples of Art Nouveau architectural style in France. Inside is art by ceramic artist Alexandre Bigot and stained glass artist Jacques Gruber, and the house itself is really a work of art, but all the touches inside and outside make it truly awe-inspiring. Not far away is the Musée de l'École de Nancy. It's another home that has been preserved with artwork collected from this avant-garde group of artists. The home was that of patron Eugene Corbin, and he recognized the works of art by Art Nouveau founders Émile Gallet, Victor Prouvé, Louis Majorelle, Anton Dom, and Eugene Vallon. It's a beautiful home, beautiful space with furniture, objects d'art, glassware, ceramics, stained glass, paintings, and fabrics. It's astonishing to see the breadth of the work that was built here. I left the museum and decided to walk back to the city center, passing the Nancy Thermal Spa and wandering through Parc Sainte-Marie before a leisurely walk through the streets. Nancy has many historic elements, but it's also surprisingly modern, and it's a wonderful city to walk through. On my way to dinner, I walked back through the central square, and I have to say it was beautifully lit up. It's really something to see, and the cafes and restaurants along the square are really hard to pass by. You really want to sit down and have something. It's worth noting for the Christmas lovers that you can come any time of year, but in late November they have the iconic St. Nicholas Parade and a Christmas market that runs all the way until January, unlike anywhere else. It's well worth checking out. I had dinner at Le Toc. It's a Michelin-selected restaurant in the quaint, old, winding streets of the city. You can order a la carte, but I would recommend trying one of their multi-course meals, and that includes a selection of cheese at the end with dessert. And of course, you can get wine paired with it as well. The next morning after breakfast, I had a little bit of time before I was leaving Nancy, and it was a little foggy out, so I had to go back to the square. It was gorgeous to see the fog. You really don't get a sense of it in this video. The video doesn't do it justice, but it was beautiful out.
This has to be one of the most beautiful public squares I've ever seen in my life. And there are lots of countries and places I still need to go to, but I cannot believe this beautiful square. It's so big and well maintained, and the ironwork and the gates are phenomenal. It's just a tremendous place. And then there's cafes and restaurants all around the outside. It's incredible.
I will say that me visiting for a day was not nearly enough for any of these cities. You really should come for at least 2 to 3 days. Another train ride, and I was on to Reims, a city I had visited once before, and I really adored, especially Taittinger. Taittinger is on the site of what was once a cathedral. In the 13th century, Benedictine monks built an abbey church on the site of the grave of Saint Nicaise in order to worship his relics. The site was unfortunately plundered and torn down in the 19th century, and today this is the site of Taittinger's headquarters. I had a special tour to see the wine cellars, learn some more of the history, and finish with a very special tasting. The chalk cellars stretch for miles, and they're filled with bottles and bottles of aging champagne. Along the walls, you can still find art and signatures from the early 1900s when soldiers and people were here during the Great War. And then you'll walk on and see more rooms upon rooms of champagne. The caverns are frankly astonishing, and our guide told us about how the family started winemaking, the history of champagne, and taught us about the process. To sum it up a little, their champagne is made with Chardonnay combined with either Pinot Noir or Pinot Meunier grapes, depending on the blend, and those are grown in the region with 37 different vineyards. It's aged and then bottled, and then it gets interesting. The bottles age anywhere from 4 to 10 years, and they use a special process so that the sediments settle in the neck as they turn them over months. And then they freeze the sediment and remove it and cork it at the same time. It's really an astonishing thing to see just how much wine that is going to be champagne is created here. And it's worth taking the tour just to see these spaces that are under the city. It is unbelievable. The art and the drawings on the walls, the old staircases, it's remarkable.
Par exemple, celui-là, je l'ai, et je trouve il est particulièrement sympa. This one is Count of Champagne 2018. It's the one you taste in 5 years. And here you have 129,456 bottles.
Oh my God.
If you want, we split.
Also, while Magnum may seem like a huge bottle of champagne, there are lots of different sizes that they use, and the huge ones that are to the left of the Magnum, they're really rare and they're really special, and the largest holds 15 liters, while the smallest is 20 centiliters or a quarter of a standard bottle. The last time I visited Taittinger in Reims, I actually was at their temporary location, but they've now opened this new presentation center, and it is so modern and chic with art inspired by their champagne and the champagne bottles. Sitting down in their tasting room, our guide led us through a range of flavors and canapes sampled alongside 3 of Taittinger's champagnes, and it's amazing to see how the food impacts the flavors. They change and they adapt as you sip on one thing and try another. It's a wonderful experience. And of course, trying the champagnes is wonderful too.
Oh my God. What a fantastic experience. Delicious. Perfectly delicious.
You can buy bottles to take home as you leave, and they have a number of unique gifts and things in their store. I definitely recommend checking out all the great products they have here, including some of the kits you can take home multiple bottles. For lunch, I had Brasserie Le Jardin, a Michelin bib gourmand restaurant that's bright and breezy with a fantastic menu, a la carte options, prefix, and sharing plates. But the highlight in Reims was a quick visit to walk through Domaine Le Crier, a spectacular 5-star hotel with gorgeous gardens, a 2-star Michelin restaurant, and the most well-appointed rooms. It's the epitome of class and elegance with gorgeous views. I really hope to return one day to stay here and definitely to sample their menu. In the heart of Reims, I went on a walking tour to see the iconic cathedral and a few nearby gems. The Reims Cathedral is a Gothic masterpiece. It's steeped in history, it's stunning, and maybe even a little overwhelming, and you need to visit and give a wave to the smiling angel. The first structure here was built in the 5th century, but the current structure dates back to the 13th and 14th centuries. Every king of France had their coronation in this spot, starting in 496 AD with Clovis I and ending in 1825 with Charles X. Inside there are statues and stained glass windows and just incredible architecture everywhere. Steps from the cathedral, the Carnegie Library in Reims is an astonishing work of art, Art Deco to be precise. Funded by Andrew Carnegie, the famous American businessman who created a fund to help war-torn cities rebuild after World War I. It's a beautiful space, and you can even still look through the old card catalogs. We also walked the city center, and it's a charming, picturesque city that's also very walkable and only a 45-minute train ride from Paris, making it a great day trip if that's something you want to do, but I definitely say come here for longer. There are restaurants and great shopping and impressive architectural gems. I'd recommend at least 3 days if you really want to soak up the vibes, try the champagne, go on a few tours, eat at a few restaurants, and take a few trips out to the iconic countryside nearby. Le Cellar is a great example of the art in this city. It was a champagne storehouse, but otherwise you should walk around, try some of the iconic pink biscuits. These are really good, and they're made so that you can dip them in champagne, tea, or coffee without them falling apart. Hotel Le César Chanzy is an autograph hotel with standard rooms that I stayed in, as well as rooms that look out over the cathedral. The hotel is modern, I love the style, and they have comfortable beds and excellent design. It's highly recommended. The piece de resistance on my trip was definitely a visit to the vineyards at sunset and then dinner. Sunset in the vineyards in Sassy was one of the most beautiful sights that I've ever seen. I really lucked out with one of the most amazing skies and the perfect weather. It's a short drive from Reims, and it's one of the most beautiful parts of the countryside around Grand Est and Reims. And then it was time for dinner at Chateau de Sassy. Classy, refined, and yet charmingly relaxed, dinner in the country was perfect, and it was so special. This is one of the top places to stay in the region, and this meal was truly excellent and felt like you were dining on local delicacies. What a way to end my time in Grand Est. The next morning I got up, I took transit to the train station, and I headed off to Paris, my last stop in France. The city was a little gray, but it was warm, and frankly, a gray day in Paris is better than a lot of other places. I walked a second-hand market and saw a lot of old gems, including clothing and coats and books and housewares. It was a really different way to have a peek at what Paris is and the people who live here. It is kind of charming to see this side of it. I also caught a run and wandered the streets around Canal Saint-Martin. This neighborhood is so unique. It feels like a park space, but also feels like it's part of the city with trees and greenery next to these old structures and old buildings. It's really special. There are also a few gems nearby for looking for restaurants, and that includes Café A, Le Comptoir Général, and La Fontaine. Naturally, I stopped at a patisserie and I bought some French pastry to eat on a bench while I watched a tour boat float up the locks. And then I headed on to Place des Vosges in the lovely Marais district. It's on the border between the 3rd and 4th arrondissement, and it's one of my new favorite parts of the city. The park in this area is truly idyllic. It feels like the dream of what you expect to see when you visit Paris, when you visit France. It's a great area for shopping, and it's a great area for treats. And a few blocks on, you'll head towards the Seine, and you'll find the kind of restaurants that you dream about finding in Paris. There are also little patisseries and places to find treats. It's really special. I love this neighborhood. I really just spent my whole time in Paris walking and snacking, and I wouldn't change a thing. After a number of busy days, it was the perfect way to end my visit to France. At the time when I was visiting, Notre Dame Cathedral was still undergoing repairs, but since then it's reopened its doors and you can visit once again. Visiting is free, but if you want to make sure you can get inside, you can make a free reservation online through their website. Around the corner, Shakespeare & Co. had quite a big line to get in and tour the shop, but keep in mind that there can be a wait here if you want to tour the shop. But the cafe is also worth a stop for coffee. When you're visiting a city like Paris or even Lyon, these large cities have lots to do, and I love getting a chance to explore, but I love also making time to walk through neighborhoods. I think that you don't really see a city until you've had a chance to walk through it and just wander and explore, making time for really a little downtime. And sometimes you find gems on those walks that you'd never see otherwise. I made a whole video about touring some of Paris's top attractions, including the Louvre, and you really should check it out if you're curious. But otherwise, I'd say definitely walk around the grounds of the Louvre because you don't often get a chance to see all the buildings and spaces. It is a huge space, and lots of the grounds are walkable for sure. If you want to plan a visit, I would say definitely book your tickets in advance so you can skip all these huge lines that you see outside. There is no reason to wait in those lines if you just book your tickets a little in advance. Jardin des Tuileries is right beside the Louvre, and it's one of my favorite spots in Paris. It's gorgeous from spring to fall especially.
So I think the thing I appreciate most about all the gardens and green spaces in Paris is that they're just so welcoming and easy and a great place to relax without having to spend a ton of money, because Paris can be expensive. There's a lot you can spend your money on. Even lunches can be quite expensive, but there's playgrounds and lots of free things to do in all the parks. So I do greatly love being able to come here and just sit down and have a quiet minute. Cafes are great. The restaurants are amazing around here. But there's something to be said for having a quiet moment in a city that you're exploring and actually getting a feel for it, but also not running yourself ragged the whole time you're traveling. So I very much appreciate the quiet moments in travel for sure.
It's worth a little time even if you just come for the cafes, but there's playgrounds and fountains and statues, and it's just wonderful, especially the way it leads to Place de la Concorde and the stunning Fontaine de Mers, and then the start of the Champs-Élysées. For the photographers out there, it's hard to find a better spot than this for a truly idyllic photo of Paris. After a little break in my hotel room, I then headed out to the second arrondissement and wandered the streets around Galerie Vivian and the covered passages. It was late October and I was there, so the city had already started to get dressed up for the holidays. There are lots of great places around here to sit and enjoy the scenery, whether it's inside or out. It is really lovely though when it's lit up like this, but I'd recommend coming here any time of day because you won't see any other place quite like it, especially with the glass ceilings and everything. I have to finish with something I didn't expect to love so much, but after seeing photos, I had to go see the Starbucks near Palais Garnier on Boulevard des Capucines. I feel like I can safely say that there is no other Starbucks quite like this one. There are chandeliers and gold trim on the ceilings, black columns, and intricate paintings and designs. It's one of the most unique coffee shops that I've seen anywhere, especially a Starbucks. Thank you so much for watching and following along on my trip. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be very much appreciated. And if you have any questions or want to know more about anything, feel free to leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Let me know if you're planning a trip to any of these places or if you're thinking about it, and I'd love to help you out.